I can tell you this, and I'm absolutely a proponent of securing our borders. But even if we secured our borders right now, there's already enough fentanyl in the United States to cause a magnitude of death for decades to come. So in addition to securing our border, in addition to needing to take this out at the source, we have to have the proper tools in place to go after those here in America who are distributing this poison.
Right. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to Our Watch. I am Tim Thompson. We've got a very important topic to talk about today. That is the topic of fentanyl. We have a crisis on our hands here in America. Those of you that live on the southern border, you know it all too well. In order to talk about this more, we brought Matt Capelouto to the program today. Matt, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Tim.
Yeah, we've been talking quite a bit. I know your story. I want everybody else to know your story. Talk about your nonprofit organization, just so that way we have an idea of who you are.
Sure. I serve as president of the nonprofit Drug-Induced Homicide. You could find more about our organization at druginducedhomicide.org. Our foundation exists really for two main reasons. One, we want to hold accountable those who are distributing poison throughout our communities, aka drug dealers, or these days, really, I just simply call them death dealers, and to make sure that all drug deaths are investigated criminally. Too many drug deaths are just marked as non-criminal accidental overdoses, and unfortunately, these aren't accidental overdoses these days. People are being poisoned, and there's another person on the other side of that transaction who's delivering this poison, resulting in death, and those people need to be held accountable.
Yeah, if you would, I know this is hard for you, but if you would share with our audience a little bit about your story and how you got connected with our district attorney in Riverside County, Mike Hestron, of course, the sheriff, Chad Bianco. You have been the vanguard in America right now to address this fentanyl crisis in a very special way. Share with us a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, unfortunately, I do have personal experience with this. I have 4 daughters and all good kids. My wife and I raised 4 wonderful children. We come from a faith-based family, and my daughter, Alexandra, who is a very bright young lady, a scholar student, she suffered from depression. With that came some experimental drug use for her. I put her in a category of, at some point, she decided to start self-medicating to treat her depression. And while she was on home from college break in 2019 for Christmas, at some point in the evening, she reached out to a drug dealer on social media, Snapchat in particular, where it's far too easy to obtain deadly drugs. And she was seeking Percocet, which is a prescription painkiller. And not that any parent is going to condone their child seeking a prescription medication illegally, but it's not necessarily the crime of the century and not necessarily worth a death sentence. She reached out to a drug dealer. Drug dealer replied to her, said that he didn't have Percocet, but he had oxycodone. So they settled on that, and this drug dealer sold my daughter a counterfeit oxycodone pill simply made of a lethal dose of fentanyl, of which she took half of it before going to bed on the night of December 22nd and died within a few minutes after ingesting it.
Yeah, people will use the term overdose in a situation like that, but that isn't the right term that should be used. So talk to us about that.
Absolutely. Soon after this happened, obviously myself, my wife, were in shock. But as I came around and began to understand the situation more, and I found out about these counterfeit pills going around, I quickly realized my daughter did not die of an overdose. She was poisoned. Had she received the oxycodone pill that she thought she was getting, she's alive today. And I took this narrative and I met with our head district attorney and our sheriff, both Mike Hestron and Chad Bianco, explained it to them in this way, and they agreed. They agreed that this is murder. And since then, our district attorney has done he's taken this really to heart. We've got around 20 murder charges now against fentanyl dealers in a state where it's very difficult to charge murder, period, for any reason. Our sheriff has gone on record stating that all fentanyl deaths will be investigated as homicides. We have a fentanyl task force that knows how to properly investigate these cases now, which help our district attorney to charge these people with murder. And we're really leading the way in the nation right here in Riverside County in holding these people accountable.
Well, we're so close to the U.S.-Mexico border. The amount of fentanyl that's coming across into our country is incredible. I mean, just briefly, do you have any sort of statistic on that? Like how much fentanyl's here?
Well, I can tell you this, and I'm absolutely a proponent of securing our borders. But even if we secured our borders right now, there's already enough fentanyl in the United States to cause a magnitude of death for decades to come. So in addition to securing our border, in addition to needing to take this out at the source, we have to have the proper tools in place to go after those here in America who are distributing this poison.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm receiving numbers that there's quantities of fentanyl that can kill the entire world population.
Yes.
So it's an incredible issue. Like I said, it's a crisis. As we opened up the program today, this is a crisis that needs to be dealt with. You, along with the sheriff, the DA, you say you're really, like I said, you're the vanguard on this. You're the first father to step forward and be able to bring the kind of light that you're bringing to the situation. But you're not done yet. You've got a long ways to go. You've got a court case that's coming up. Talk to us about kind of where things have, where it's progressed to and what's coming up. What's in the future here?
Yeah. So our case, my daughter's case, is the first federal case of its kind in Riverside County, where a drug dealer is being held accountable for her death. He will be sentenced in federal court in downtown Riverside on November 7th at 2 p.m. Judge Jesus Bernal is overseeing the case, and Judge Bernal has discretion to sentence this, if you don't mind me saying, I just call him a death dealer, to anywhere from probation to 20 years in federal prison. And we are asking as many people from our area as possible to attend this hearing. We want to pack this courthouse. We want to send a strong message to this judge that these dealers of death need to be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law.
Like I keep saying, you're the vanguard on this, but you're not the only parent,
unfortunately,
that's suffering with this right now. Over the last couple of years, how many parents have come to you saying, hey, same type of thing has happened?
Thousands, nationwide, literally thousands. And, as I'm having a brief moment of just, I'm in awe, and it sometimes leaves me speechless. And the sad part is every parent I come across, they did not understand the magnitude of this problem until they were in our shoes. And that's why we're now, there's so many of us trying to get this message out there and warn parents, of the dangers that their kids face these days. They're being targeted by this drug. There are drug dealers from China to the cartels, all the way down to the local drug dealer. They are marketing to kids out there to get them to take fentanyl deceptively by hiding it in other common recreational drugs. And it's not even drugs these days. We're finding fentanyl in Fruit Loops that are being handed to kids at middle schools, all in an effort to get them addicted to fentanyl.
Yeah, so with this court case that you have coming up, you're saying this is the first
federal case of its type.
So this can set a massive precedence for future cases.
Absolutely. In surrounding counties, there's been other federal cases, but this is a first for Riverside County. What led it to get escalated federally was, my daughter died back in 2019. I don't want to say this was new, but certainly a few years later here, our district attorney, our law enforcement, they know how to handle these cases a little bit better, and they can handle them at the state level. Federally, though, we have better laws, and at the time, some things in my daughter's case were probably not done quite as efficiently as they would be today. So it was better to let the feds take over this case where they have better laws and where this guy stands a better chance of serving more time behind bars. So
I'm sure there's a lot of things you want to accomplish in this, but if you could say, hey, this is my top thing, what is your hope? You said November 7th, right? What is your hope?
Well, specifically for November 7th, we hope that this dealer of death, Brandon Michael McDowell, is sentenced to the maximum 20 years behind bars. I want to mention this. There was a plea deal in the case. Originally on the table was 20 years to life in prison. That mandatory 20-year to life in prison charge, if you'll call it, was removed. So really, the probation up to 20 years that he faces is kind of a middle ground. And that judge needs to do his duty in protecting the citizens and keep this guy locked up. We know that even after he was aware of my daughter's death, he continued to reach out to his supplier to purchase more of these counterfeit pills. And, so he didn't learn his lesson. It wasn't enough. There wasn't enough guilt on his conscience knowing that he killed somebody for him to stop. The only way to stop somebody like this is to keep him behind bars.
So that's your hope. That's your goal. November 7th. I'm assuming you're going to continue on social media, your website, to let people know about this and how they can connect, how they can be there to support.
I would like to say one more thing regarding that. I am going to be walking from my house in Temecula on November 4th. It'll be a 3-day walk. I'm going to walk all the way from Temecula, 60 miles, to the federal courthouse to attend the hearing on Monday, November 7th. You can look more information about this walk up on our website, druginducedhomicide.org. People can join me along the way on the walk. Other parents who've suffered similar tragedies are welcome to join me. And this is all in an effort to bring awareness to this. And we're using it as a fundraiser also to raise funds for our organization, Drug-Induced Homicide.
All right. Well, we're going to put all of that content in our notes. That way people can connect with you. But we've got a lot more we want to talk about. Teacher in Bakersfield who got exposed to this drug. That teacher's in bad shape. We've got the fact that they're targeting children. We've got an open border. We've got a massive crisis on our hands. I want to bring you back on the program. Let's talk more in depth of what this crisis is and really, truly how this is affecting everyday Americans. So thank you for being here, and we're going to have you back on.
Great. Appreciate it.
All right. I want to thank you for joining us. Don't miss our next time with Matt Capelouto as we talk about this fentanyl crisis that we're all dealing with right here in America. So God bless you. We'll see you next time on Our Watch with Tim Thompson.